guys, this is Greg at panelsareus.co.uk. Today I'm going to be running through the latest version of LEDVision, version 7.2, and showing how to configure a matrix to get your Colorlight card configured. One of these lovely beauties. Get your Colorlight card configured and ready for use with either LEDVision or with Falcon Pi Player. We'll be configuring this small panel behind us here, just 2 panels wide by 3 panels high for a total of 6 panels. These are P5 indoor panels, just like this one. So 64 pixels across each by 32 in a 5mm spacing, so that's a P5. These are indoor panels and we've got them in an enclosure here ready to go. So we're going to set this up. We've got a Colorlight version 8 card, the very latest type of receiver card, the version B, the 5A75B. One of those is on the back of that panel. It's all wired up, ready to go. So let's get into LEDVision and start configuring. I'm going to launch LEDVision, which I've just installed. There we go. Let's drag this across. There we go. So there's the main user interface for LEDVision. And as you can see on the left hand side, it's given us a default screen size to show us what LEDVision should be outputting. Now at the moment that's completely different size to the one that we're configuring. So we need to get that set up first. So the first thing I'm going to do is to go into Control and Screen Size and Count settings. Now the X and the Y we can ignore at this point. That's just the positioning of this logo on our screens. I'm running 2 screens here and you're seeing the second one, which is why X is quite so large. Now it's telling us that our panel is being set up for 256 by 256. That's not quite correct. We're going to be using we're 2 panels wide. Each panel is 64 pixels, so we're going to be looking at 128. I've got to change it here. 128 pixels wide, and we're 3 panels high. Now each panel is 32 pixels high on the P5, so 32 times 3 is 96. And there we go. So that's the size of the panel that we're going to be setting up today. Now, as you can see from the video down at the bottom left, there's nothing yet appearing on the actual panel itself. We've still got to configure that. This is just telling it what it's going to be outputting. So I can close that. I can now go into Control and LED screen settings. It's asking for a password. The password is 168. So I'll type that in now. There we go. And here we go. So we've got an empty screen that's needing configuration. The first thing we need to change here is the sending device. We're not sending to it from a dedicated sender box. We're going to be using a network card, so we're going to send to it from LEDVision initially and then from FPP. So I'll change the sending device to net card, and it then gives us an option to use net card, which we want, and it has also selected for us the network card that it needs to use. If I drop this down for a second, you'll see that I've actually got 2 network cards in this PC. The Intel gigabit network connection is on the motherboard, and that's going to my home network. And then I've got an A6 USB 3 to gigabit Ethernet adapter that I'm using to connect to the Colorlight. Now I've done that because I spend quite a lot of time configuring Colorlight cards and things, so I've got a second connection that I used dedicated to that. If you're just setting this up as a one-off device, then you can use your normal network connection on the motherboard or however it's connected. You just need to unplug it from the home network and plug a direct cable in from the Colorlight card to the Ethernet card on your PC, just for the duration of the configuration. So just a direct cable between the two while you get this set up. Once you then move across to FPP, of course, you'll have a direct connection from the Raspberry Pi to the Colorlight, and your home PC will be used for whatever you normally use it for. So I'm now just going to click detect. There we go. And it's detected that we've got a version 5A 10.16 card. The 5A is expected. That's the 8-port version of the card, which is the standard version that we use in this hobby. So that's good. So it's seen that. We can now move on to the second tab, which is receiver parameters. Now at this point, there are two different methods of configuring the card. In an ideal world, you'll have an RCVBP file, a receiver configuration file from the vendor that supplied your panels. Certainly in the case of Panels R Us, there are links to the P5 indoor and outdoor files from the relevant pages on the store. So if you navigate to the P5 indoor page, you'll find a link to the file there so you can download it. Likewise with outdoors. So we're going to go through that method first. That's the quickest and easiest way of doing it. So if you've got the file, we can load that up. So I'm going to go to load at the bottom, browse, and it's then going to navigate to the relevant folder. So you navigate to the folder that you want, pick the file. So we're looking at P5 indoors. Open that. There we go, and that's loaded the parameters of the panel into the software. So now all we need to do is to set the width again. So the width as before was 128 and our height was 96. You need to substitute those again with your values for whatever you're setting up. So I've got those in there. I can now press save to receiver. And this is the first part then configured. Okay. We then need to tell the receiver how many receivers are working on the one panel. So if you've got a big panel, you might have multiple receiver cards working to drive it. In our case, we've got just the one. So we'll go into the receiver mapping tab. Just click on it to highlight it, and then on the right hand side we can set the width and the height again. So width was still 128, height 96. And if I now apply that again to the card by hitting save to device at the bottom, okay, it looks like we have a power issue on our panel here. The Colorlight card is doing what we're expecting. It's driving 4 of the 6 panels successfully, but the last one is not appearing correct. The last 2 down there are not appearing correctly, and looking at the dubious output, I believe that's probably a power issue. So I'm just going to double check that now. And there we go. So we popped a fuse somehow on the power distribution board. I've swapped that over and that's now working beautifully. So that is as difficult as it gets. So we've configured LEDVision there. We are now seeing on the panel exactly what we're seeing in the little box on our screen. And if I move the mouse into the little box, we'll see it appear on the panel. There it is. So that's LEDVision configured for our panel. I can close that down. Now, if you want to watch video or something like that directly on the panel when you're not using it for FPP, you can do that directly in LEDVision. So LEDVision can play videos directly, and you can also do screen captures. So we can now play videos directly onto the panel if you wanted to from your PC here, as long as it's cabled up as before with the Ethernet cable directly from the Ethernet on the PC directly to the Colorlight, then you're good to go. So to do that, we go to Add, Normal Page. I'm then going to add to the normal page, so add again, and select a file window. And let's just stretch that out to full screen. So I'm just going to go over to the thing and drag it out so it fits the full screen. I'm then going to add a file to the file window. If I go to Add again, Add Video, select a file, and there you go. That's the start of it playing in the window up on the top left, and it's playing on the panel as well. So from the right hand side then you can select how you want it to come in, how you want it to go out, whether you want it to repeat, things like that. That's beyond the scope of today's. I'll let you play with that. But if you just want to play a video now and you don't want the boxes and stuff around the outside, just go and press the play button at the top and it will run it full screen on the panel, and you can watch your favorite movie. Now, if what you're wanting to demonstrate isn't a movie file like that, and this one's an MKV, let's get rid of that. You can also just grab, if you've got something that you can get up on the window of your PC, you can do a screen capture of that and play that straight out to the panel as well. So if I just go for the plus again, this time I'm going to select desk area window. Once again, I can drag it out to full screen, and you can see already that it's trying to show me some stuff. Then you can select exactly where you want it to capture. So if I select that now, it's giving me the option straight away to capture the LEDVision window. So I'm going to double click on that, and there we go. So it's now showing LEDVision, the window of the application, directly on the panel. It's a bit squished, but it's there. So that sums up that side of it. Now I wanted to go through the settings if you haven't got an RCVBP file from your vendor and you need to set your panel up manually. So we're going to use what's called intelligent setting to set up the panel. It may not be as quite an optimal config as the one that you get from a vendor, but it should get you up and running if you haven't got one. So I'm going to go into Control and LED screen settings. You need to have set up the screen size and count settings as we did at the beginning of the video here. But now we're going to LED screen settings. Again, the password is 168. I'm going to go into make sure we're set to net card, make sure we've got the right network card on the PC configured. Normally you'll only have one. And then detect receiver cards, and it's found our Colorlight card happily. I'll navigate now to the receiver parameters window. There we go. And I'm going to go down to intelligent setting at the bottom here. Now at this point we enter the width and the height of our matrix. So ours is 128 by 96 high. We're full color, and our module width, we're running P5s, which are 64 pixels wide. So we need 64 in here. And yours may vary. If you're running P10s, you will need to put 32 in there, etc. So that's the width of your individual panels. So I'm going to go for next. And it should start to figure out what's going on now. So it's going to start by displaying black, and then it will display some white as well. So we're on black and then white. So that's doing that, that's matching. 1 is darker than 2. So we've got a dark white and a brighter white. So yep, that's doing that. And it's going to change some colors. So we're going to go for red, green, blue, and black. Now, particularly, I've seen this on outdoor panels and I've seen it on some P10s. The color order doesn't come out in the order that you expect. So if it doesn't, you need to drop these down and change them to the colors that you're seeing on the screen. So this one's going correctly, so we can leave that alone. Now, how many rows are lighting on a module at the moment? So this is just the top of the panel that should be showing, and in our case we're seeing half of the top row of panels is lit. So that is 16 rows are currently lit, so that's correct. How many rows are currently being lit? So this is 1 on these indoor P5s. This is 1 that we're seeing. If you've got outdoor panels that are 8th scan, then you might get 2 rows lighting up, in which case you need to tell it that there's 2 lighting up, and so on. Right, let me just drag this window back over here. There we go. Right, so this is now, if I reset this, yes. Right, so if you haven't gone through previously, then you'll start with a blank page like this. So what we need to do now is looking at the first panel of the top row. So the very first panel on output 1, which is the top right panel, we can see that we've currently got 1 pixel flashing. So we need to check pixel 1. It will then move across so we get a second pixel flashing, and so on. So we're now going to just click the mouse down on the second one, and we're going to drag across, and we'll see on the panel as we drag, the row is getting wider as we go. Now we're only interested in the top right panel at the minute. We're not worried about what the other ones on the top row are doing, just the very first panel on output 1. I'm just dragging this across, and this will go across to 64. There we go. Lovely. So that's our whole top row now lit up, and the second row of the panel is starting to flash. Now fortunately we don't have to scroll all the way across for every row. It knows now that we've got 64 across, so we can just click in the second row and you see it auto populates. So we can now drag that down. There we go. And that has worked out the layout of all of the pixels on the panel. So it says please check the display as normal, and we can see that it is. So we can OK that, we can finish, and it returns us to this panel, at which point we want to click save to receivers to push this config out now to the receiver card. Now it's imperative that you push the config on this page, and you also push the config on the receiver mapping tab that we're going to now. If you don't push in both places, when you turn the card off, it'll get amnesia and you'll have to do it all again. So I'm going to go into receiver mapping. Now because we already did this, it's set but we're going to click on the first one here. We're going to set the width, we're going to set the height, so 128, 96. Click off, and then click Save to Devices. So that's the two pushes that we need to do to the card. And there we go. Our Colorlight card is now configured, so we can come out of the window. And we're all ready to move on to the next stage, which is configuring Falcon Pi Player. So I hope you found that useful. Any questions, please drop them below. Please do like and share the Panels Are Us videos on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.